This year we're hosting the in-laws, so there's no space for you, Mom texted. Then my sister added, but you'll still cook, right? I didn't argue or make a scene, I just. Imagine getting a text message from your own mother, just as you're utterly exhausted from a double shift, telling you there's no room at the family Christmas table for you or your daughter. But, oh, by the way, you're still expected to cook the entire feast. That's when the gut-wrenching truth finally hit me. I wasn't family, I was just the help. I was sitting in my car that night, right outside Hennepin County Medical Center. Snow was falling, thick and quiet, clinging to my windshield like a protective shield, but it felt suffocating instead. My scrubs were still plastered to my skin, smelling faintly of disinfectant and the sweet perfume of an elderly patient who'd hugged me too tight before leaving. 8:17 p.m. I should have been home with Lily, but my limbs felt like lead, weighted down by 12 hours of patient care. Just 5 more minutes of stillness, I thought, before the dinner bath bedtime story routine. Then my phone buzzed. Family group chat. Probably Mom, asking when I'd pick up Lily. My parents had been watching her after school, a favor they never failed to remind me of, every single chance they got. I reached for my phone, expecting the usual passive-aggressive nudge about Lily's bedtime. But Mom, Ellen, she had a different kind of message waiting for me. A truly cruel one. We're hosting your sister Hannah's fiancé, Brad, and his family this year. There's no room for you and Lily at the table. My thumb just froze over the screen. Had I misread that? Before I could even process it, another message popped up, a real sucker punch, but we'd love it if you cooked, like always. The air just left my lungs. Not invited to Christmas dinner, but still expected to cook it? And then, just to twist the knife, my dad, Ron, chimed in, and don't forget my Apple Watch. Series 9 this time. My hands started trembling on the steering wheel, knuckles white. The heat from my breath fogged the windshield, and that cocoon of snow outside suddenly felt like a cage. Just 3 years ago, I was sitting in a different car, signing divorce papers, Lily asleep in her car seat. I truly believed moving back to Minneapolis would bring us stability, family support, a chance to rebuild. I packed our lives into boxes, drove back to my hometown, rented a small apartment 10 minutes from my parents. They'll help with Lily, I'd told myself. We won't be alone. And they did help. But every single minute of childcare came with strings. Every school pickup was a favor I could never repay. Every afternoon they spent with Lily was a debt I owed them. I closed my eyes. I could still see Mom's face when the developmental pediatrician confirmed Lily's autism diagnosis. That tiny pursing of her lips, a flicker of pure disappointment before she plastered on her practiced sympathy. Well, she'd said in the parking lot, we'll just have to make sure she learns to behave properly. No one needs to know. That's when it solidified in my chest, cold and hard like ice. Ellen cared more about appearances than she ever did about love. Brad's wealthy Connecticut family? They were the perfect status symbol, the kind of connection she could brag about at her charity luncheons. My struggling nurse's salary, my autistic daughter, we just didn't fit into her perfect picture. For 12 years, I had been the invisible backbone of every single family gathering. I organized Hannah's law school graduation party, spending $900 of my own nurse's salary on catering, while Ellen took all the credit for the elegant spread. I took unpaid leave to drive Dad to his back surgery appointments, sitting for hours in waiting rooms, catching up on medical journals. I catered Mom's charity events, helping her impress board members with homemade appetizers that she'd introduce as our family recipes. As Mom's wrist arthritis worsened, cooking became my permanent job. Somehow, I'd transformed from daughter to household staff without anyone even acknowledging the shift. The snow was falling harder now, muffling the world outside. I watched it pile up, building a barrier between me and the life waiting beyond my windshield. Last week flashed in my mind, Lily, so excited about a documentary on historical trains, chattering happily at Sunday dinner. The steam locomotives from the 1800s used coal to heat water that made steam that pushed. Mom had interrupted her, her voice dripping with honey, but sharp underneath, "Sweetheart, not everyone wants to hear about locomotives right now." Lily's face had crumpled, her eyes starting to mine, bewildered. That look, that hurt in her bright eyes, it haunted me. I sat up straighter. The truth crystallized with sudden, painful clarity. My family was ashamed of my daughter. Something inside me snapped. A dam holding back years of accommodations, years of excuses, crumbled. But as it fell, something else rose in its place. Something unfamiliar and terrifying in its newness. Something that felt dangerously close to freedom. My fingers hovered over my phone. Muscle memory wanted to call Ellen back, to apologize, to agree to cook the perfect Christmas dinner, while Lily and I ate leftovers alone. Years of appeasing, peacekeeping, absorbing slights, it all rose up like a well-rehearsed script. But then Lily's voice echoed in my mind. Why does Grandma get mad when I talk about trains? I turned off my phone instead. The screen went black, reflecting my face in the darkness. My eyes were clear. My jaw was set. I started the engine, backed carefully out of the parking space, and drove slowly through the snow towards home, towards Lily. For the first time in years, my mind felt quiet, stripped of the constant worry about pleasing my family. A new clarity formed, dangerous and necessary all at once. That night, Lily's gentle snores filtered through our thin apartment walls. I spread my phone, laptop, and a stack of receipts across the kitchen table. The blue glow of the screen cast shadows across my face as I scrolled back through months, then years, of text messages. You know we can't do this without you, sweetheart. Mom's text from Easter. I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. preparing a ham dinner for 12, then driven 40 minutes to deliver it before my hospital shift. I kept scrolling, like an archaeologist excavating the ruins of my own life. Don't make Mom stress again. Hannah's message from last Thanksgiving. I'd questioned if I really needed to make all 7 side dishes Ellen requested. I ended up making 9, borrowing $200 from my emergency fund to cover ingredients. I opened my banking app, the numbers swimming before my exhausted eyes. Electronic transfers. $175 for Dad's birthday golf clubs, $300 toward Hannah's engagement party venue, $86 for Mom's medication that insurance wouldn't fully cover. In my photo gallery, images from the St. Paul Children's Hospital fundraiser last spring. Ellen, center stage in a powder blue dress, accepting applause for the exquisite catering food I'd prepared over 3 sleepless nights, food she never once mentioned I had made. My hands tightened around my phone, a dull ache spreading across my knuckles. I pulled up my calculator. Groceries for family dinners, gifts they'd hinted at, emergency cash when Ron's car broke down, the weekend I catered Hannah's law school study group. The numbers climbed. Higher. My breath caught as the total flashed on the screen, $11,400. $11,400. Spent on my family in the past year alone. With trembling fingers, I checked my own bank account. $438 until next payday. Not even enough to cover next week's childcare if my parents followed through on their threat to stop watching Lily. Ellen's manipulation had been an art, almost admirable in its precision. Each request wrapped in just enough affection to disguise the command. Each implied obligation tied to some past kindness that must be repaid eternally. Hannah learned from the best, her texts always starting with sisterly concern before the inevitable ask. Her wedding planning had only accelerated the pattern, expensive taste with the unspoken expectation that I'd fill the financial gaps. Ron mostly stayed in the background, except when he wanted something specific. The Apple Watch. The golf clubs. The Waterford Crystal Whiskey decanter that sat unused in their display cabinet. And now Brad, Hannah's fiancé, whose wealthy Connecticut family had become the newest excuse to push Lily and me even further from the holiday table. His parents coming for Christmas had transformed me from daughter to caterer in one crisp text message. I stood, my legs unsteady, and moved to the bookshelf where old photo albums gathered dust. The earliest one showed me at 6, standing slightly behind Hannah in matching Christmas dresses. My smile was tentative, hers confident. Hannah center stage, me in the wings. A pattern established early. I flipped through birthdays, Christmases, graduations. In every image, the same configuration, Hannah receiving, me providing. Ellen showcased, me shadowed. The evidence was so clear I wondered how I'd never seen it before. One photo stopped me cold. My 12th birthday. I'm in our kitchen, carefully frosting a chocolate cake while Ellen rests on the couch with one of her headaches. I'd made my own birthday cake so my mother could rest. They've always seen me as the help. The words escaped as barely a whisper, but they rang with truth in the quiet apartment. Tears streamed down my face, not from anger, but from grief. Mourning years I'd never get back. A childhood spent earning love that should have been freely given. Dr. Patel's words from last week echoed, "You can't fix people who refuse to see you." He'd said it about a difficult patient, but the truth of it sliced through my fog of family obligation. My phone buzzed again, Ellen's incoming call. The third tonight. For the first time in my adult life, I deliberately silenced it, watching her name flash, then disappear. A small act of rebellion, but it felt monumental. Next week is Dad's birthday dinner. I texted my colleague Tamara. "Can you tell them I got called in if my mother phones the floor?" Her response came quickly, "Absolutely. We've got you." I'd already decided. I wouldn't be at that dinner. The text felt both terrifying and exhilarating to send. The next day, Ellen's voicemails piled up, her tone shifting from confusion to irritation to poorly concealed threats. Hannah's texts arrived in waves. "Where are you?" Then, Mom's getting upset. "Finally, you're being childish." Each ignored message felt like removing a stone from a wall that had been crushing me for years. Each unanswered demand was a boundary, long overdue. My laptop dinged with an incoming email. Dr. Patel had invited Lily and me for dinner Saturday. Lily mentioned trains last time, he wrote. "My son has a collection he'd love to show her. Genuine interest in my daughter. No strings attached." The concept felt foreign, almost suspicious, after years of conditional family love. My neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, knocked softly at my door, offering to watch Lily so I could attend a support group for parents of special needs children. "You need some time just for you," she said, refusing payment. I logged into the hospital employee site, finding information about a support group I'd ignored for years. The description read, "You are not alone." I clicked register before I could talk myself out of it. Later, scrolling mindlessly to distract myself from the guilt of ignoring my family, a banner ad caught my eye. Christmas at the Waldorf Astoria, Chicago. Train tickets. 2-night stay. Christmas brunch. $3,200. Exactly the amount I'd set aside for family Christmas gifts this year. My finger hovered over Book Now, my heart racing with equal parts fear and anticipation. I took a deep breath and clicked. The confirmation email arrived immediately. No second thoughts. No explanations. For the first time in years, I'd chosen Lily and myself over everyone else's demands. 3 days later, the hospital lobby was a blur of mid-afternoon shift change when Ellen Miller's voice sliced through the professional murmur like a scalpel. "How dare you ignore family? After all we've done for you." I froze at the nurse's station, clipboard halfway to the filing rack. My mother stood near the entrance, designer handbag clutched to her chest, face contorted with righteous indignation. Several patients in the waiting area turned to stare. "Mom," I whispered, approaching cautiously. "This is my workplace." Ellen's voice rose higher. 3 days without returning calls. "Is this how we raised you?" Your sister's beside herself. Mike, a security guard who'd helped me change a flat tire last winter, appeared beside us, his presence calm but unmistakably firm. "Everything okay here, Nurse Miller?" "My daughter's having a moment of rebellion," Ellen announced, shoulders squaring. Some misguided independence phase at 33. My cheeks burned. "I need to finish my shift. We can discuss this later." "Later." Ellen's laugh was brittle. "You've made that promise for days." Mike shifted his weight. "Ma'am, our staff needs to focus on patient care. I can escort you to the cafeteria if you'd like to wait until." "Escort me?" Ellen's eyes widened with theatrical offense. "I'm trying to speak with my daughter about family obligations." 2 more security guards materialized, responding to Mike's subtle hand signal. I watched my mother's expression shift from indignation to calculation as she realized the scene wasn't working in her favor. "Fine. We'll continue this discussion when you remember your priorities." She turned sharply, allowing herself to be guided toward the exit, her voice carrying, Christmas is about family, Ashley. Not whatever this is. The elevator doors closed behind me 20 minutes later, my hands trembling as I pressed the button for the parking garage. My phone vibrated. Hannah's 4th Instagram notification today. I opened it reluctantly. Hannah's latest post, a sepia-toned photo of their childhood stockings hanging from my parents' fireplace. Caption: Some people forget family comes first at Christmas. Traditions matter. Family first. Priorities. 3 missed calls from my father. 6 from Ellen. A family group text flashed on screen. We need to finalize holiday commitments. Ashley, please respond as soon as possible regarding your cooking schedule. My phone rang again, Aunt Margaret this time. The 3rd extended family member to check in since yesterday. I silenced the call, then hesitated before opening my email. There it was, between hospital shift notifications and Lily's school newsletter. Christmas shopping list, 2024, from Ellen Miller, containing detailed ingredients for the 12 dishes I was expected to prepare. No acknowledgement of our confrontation. No mention that Lily and I weren't welcome at the table. In my apartment that night, after Lily had fallen asleep clutching her favorite train encyclopedia, I sat cross-legged on my bed. My thumb hovered over my mother's contact, then deliberately selected block this caller. Hannah's number followed, then Ron's, Aunt Margaret's, cousin Jeremy's. For 24 hours, I decided. Just 24 hours of silence. Next, I opened my email settings, creating a new filter, family folder, automatic redirection, no notifications. The tension in my shoulders eased slightly as I imagined the messages piling up somewhere I couldn't see them. That night, I slept without interruption for the first time in years. Number 2 a.m. texts from Ellen asking for recipe confirmations, no pre-dawn anxiety about forgotten family obligations. I woke feeling oddly light, as if gravity had somehow lessened overnight. Before Lily stirred, I sat by the window, watching dawn break over Minneapolis. 15 minutes of silence. 15 minutes of breathing without planning anyone else's day. The apartment felt different. Protected. Later, while Lily arranged her cereal into perfect, concentric circles, I opened a blank document on my laptop. Family patterns, I typed. The evidence flowed easily. Holidays spent cooking while others ate. Vacation days sacrificed for Ellen's charity events. Loan money never repaid. Hannah's emergencies always trumping Lily's needs. Seeing it in black and white felt simultaneously heartbreaking and validating. This wasn't normal family give and take. This wasn't love. This was exploitation with a smile. My phone call to the therapist's office felt like crossing a border into unknown territory. First available appointment, please, I told the receptionist regarding family boundaries. That evening, I stood before my bathroom mirror. No, I practiced, watching my reflection. I won't be cooking Christmas dinner this year. My voice wavered, then steadied with repetition. Lily and I have other plans. Lily's school holiday concert arrived with perfect December precision 2 weeks before Christmas, just as Ellen had calculated. I spotted my mother and sister immediately upon entering the elementary school auditorium. They'd positioned themselves near the only exit door, a tactical choice that made my stomach clench. There you are, Ellen hissed as I approached, Lily's hand firmly in mine. Your father's parking the car. We need to talk. After the concert, I replied, guiding Lily toward the rows reserved for performers. Hannah stepped into our path. You're being ridiculous. Mom hasn't slept in days. My class is singing Jingle Bells. Lily announced proudly, oblivious to the tension. I'm going to ring the bells on the chorus. Ellen ignored her granddaughter completely. This tantrum needs to end, Ashley. You're embarrassing the family. If you don't start answering calls, Hannah added, leaning closer, we won't watch Lily anymore. Then what will you do? I felt something solidify within my chest, not anger, but certainty. I've hired an after-school sitter, I said calmly. Lily and I won't be at Christmas. Ellen's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide her shock. What will we tell Brad's family? They're expecting your cooking. I'm sure you'll manage. I guided Lily around them toward the stage door, not looking back at my mother's sputtering response. Dr. Patel and his wife Eliza arrived at my apartment 3 days later, bearing homemade curry and freshly baked naan. A pre-Christmas dinner, Eliza explained, smiling warmly at Lily. Sandeep mentioned you might need some friendly faces this week. We ate at my small kitchen table, Lily excitedly explaining the differences between Japanese and American bullet trains, while Dr. Patel listened with genuine interest. No one hushed her. No one exchanged meaningful glances when she spoke too long about one topic. The next day, a basket appeared at the nurse's station, train-themed books, wooden track pieces, and a miniature conductor's hat for Lily. The card read simply, "From your hospital family." The parent support group I joined tentatively after Lily's diagnosis shared strategies for holiday boundaries in their December meeting. My mother-in-law used to make my son perform his normal tricks at family gatherings, one father confided. We haven't spent Christmas with them in 3 years. Best decision we ever made. Mrs. Johnson from next door stopped by with sugar cookies. I'll collect your mail while you're in Chicago, she offered, though I hadn't mentioned the trip to anyone outside work. This building gossips worse than my bridge club. My supervisor approved my vacation request with a post-it note attached, well deserved. We've got your shifts covered. An anonymous Christmas card arrived in my mailbox containing a $100 gift card and the message, from a fellow survivor. The first holiday away is the hardest. It gets better. I was folding Lily's favorite striped pajamas into our suitcase when an unknown number flashed on my phone. I almost declined before recognizing the area code, my father's cell phone, using a different number to bypass my blocking. Taking a deep breath, I answered while setting a timer for 5 minutes on my microwave. Hello, Dad. Ashley. Ron's voice held the practice patience he used when explaining why bills were paid late. Your mother hasn't slept. Is that what you wanted? I wanted to be treated like family, I replied, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. Not staff. The silence stretched between us, startling in its length. I realized it was perhaps the first time I'd directly confronted my father about anything. Everyone's upset, he finally said, sounding genuinely bewildered. Hannah says you're abandoning family traditions. I'm starting new ones with my daughter. But Christmas has always been at our house, where I've always cooked but never been welcome at the table. Another silence, longer this time. When the microwave timer beeped, I felt an odd sense of power. I need to go now, Dad. Merry Christmas. I ended the call before he could respond. The next day, Lily and I stood beneath the glittering holiday displays at the downtown department store. Christmas music swelled through hidden speakers as Lily gasped at a sparkly silver dress displayed on a child-sized mannequin. It's perfect for the fancy hotel, Mom. I checked the price tag, $78. More than I'd normally spend on a dress Lily would outgrow in months. But the light in her daughter's eyes as she twirled before the mirror made the decision simple. Let's try it on, I said. While Lily changed, I browsed the women's section, my fingers trailing over soft fabrics I'd normally pass by as impractical. A deep green sweater caught my eye. Elegant, simple, nothing like the practical clothes I wore for hospital shifts and family cooking marathons. You should try that on, the sales associate suggested. That color would be stunning with your complexion. I hesitated. I don't usually. Mom, look. Lily emerged from the dressing room, the silver dress catching light as she spun. Gorgeous, I breathed. Your turn, Lily insisted, pointing to the green sweater. In the dressing room, I stared at my reflection. The sweater draped perfectly, the color warming my skin. When had I stopped buying clothes for myself? When had every spare dollar been redirected to family? Gifts, Hannah's celebrations, Ellen's entertaining? You look radiant, the sales associate commented when I emerged. She's smiling like in the old pictures, Lily observed, touching the soft fabric of my sleeve. I pulled out my phone, positioning Lily beside me in the mirror. Our first Christmas trip selfie, I explained, snapping the photo. Later that evening, I posted it to my private Instagram account with the caption, "Starting New Traditions." While Lily slept, I created a new digital folder on my laptop, Family History. Into it went screenshots of years of manipulative texts, spreadsheets of financial records showing the one-way flow of giving, a timeline of canceled plans to accommodate family demands, journal entries documenting emotional abuse patterns. I added photos from family gatherings, Ellen physically turning away when Lily tried to show her a drawing, Hannah accepting credit for a dessert I'd stayed up until 2 a.m. to perfect. I created a list titled, Ellen's Credit Taking, documenting every accomplishment my mother had claimed as her own influence, my nursing degree, Hannah's law school acceptance, even Lily's early reading skills. Despite Ellen's minimal interaction with her granddaughter, the folder grew steadily, backed up to a secure cloud account. Not for sharing, just for remembering, when doubt inevitably crept back in. On December 23rd, our bags waited by the door for tomorrow's morning train. I checked our tickets and hotel confirmation one last time before closing my laptop. An email notification chimed from Hannah, subject line, "You'll regret this." My finger hovered over the delete button. Then, remembering my documentation folder, I clicked instead. Hannah's message was brief. "If you leave town for Christmas, don't expect to be welcome in this family again." I stared at the screen, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "That sounds like freedom," I whispered to the empty room. The December morning air bit at our cheeks as Lily and I stepped onto the Amtrak platform. The sky stretched clear and bright above us, a perfect blue canvas that felt like permission. Lily clutched her favorite pajamas to her chest, the ones with trains, insisting on bringing them despite the fresh hotel linens waiting. "Mom, I packed my sketchbook and my special headphones," she said, patting her purple backpack. The noise-canceling headphones were a splurge after her diagnosis, one of the few things I bought without questioning whether we could afford it. I checked our tickets one more time, a nervous habit. Minneapolis to Chicago. 2 passengers. A one-way journey to something that felt dangerously close to hope. The train gleamed against the platform, its windows reflecting the winter sun. The sight steadied my racing pulse. We're really doing this. We're really leaving. All aboard. The conductor's call broke through my thoughts. Lily tugged at my hand, eyes wide with excitement. "Mom, it's time." We found our seats quickly, settling into the plush upholstery as the train lurched forward. The conductor stopped by our row, his weathered face creasing into a smile as he handed Lily a paper bell ornament. "Merry Christmas, young lady," he said with a wink. Lily accepted it with reverent hands, tracing the outline with her finger. "Thank you," she whispered, the words coming easily in her delight. Her happiness was infectious, loosening the knot that had been sitting in my chest for weeks. She leaned close, her breath warm against my ear. "Mom, I think this train is taking us to our real Christmas." Something caught in my throat as I nodded. Out the window, Minneapolis began to slide away. The hospital where I'd worked double shifts, the apartment where we'd lived small, careful lives, and somewhere beyond the skyline, the house where I'd stopped being a daughter and became the help. With each mile, I felt the weight lifting. I deliberately left my phone in my purse, silencing the shrill demands of guilt. For once, there was only forward motion. Lily opened her sketchbook, the fresh page bright under the cabin lights. She began to draw snowflakes, each one unique and intricate. Below them, she carefully printed the words "Real Christmas" in her neat handwriting. I watched her work, marveling at how easily children embrace new beginnings. Back in Minneapolis, I knew they were already moving against us. I could picture Ellen, her manicured nails, clutching the phone as she called the hospital administration. "It's a family emergency," she'd say, voice trembling with practiced concern. "I'm worried about Ashley's mental state. She's taken her daughter and disappeared." Hannah would be contacting my few friends, spinning tales of concern. "We're just worried about her. She's been under so much stress lately, and with Lily's situation. Well, we just want to make sure they're both okay." And Ron, always the background player, would be reaching out to Lily's school counselor, suggesting an unstable home situation that requires monitoring. Their coordinated attack would be unfolding precisely as I'd anticipated, a narrative carefully constructed to undermine my independence, to paint me as unstable rather than awakened. Text messages would be flying to mutual acquaintances, filled with words like ungrateful and concerning behavior. Ellen would be calling relatives, her voice breaking as she delivered the most devastating line in her arsenal. "She's taken our granddaughter at Christmas." But I'd prepared for this. 3 days before our departure, I'd spoken with Dr. Sanchez, the hospital administrator who oversees my department. "My family's situation has become difficult," I'd explained, laying out just enough truth to inoculate against Ellen's inevitable call. "If anyone contacts you expressing concern about my mental state, please know it's part of a pattern of control." Dr. Sanchez nodded, her dark eyes understanding. "Family dynamics can be complicated. Take your approved vacation days, Ashley. Your work speaks for itself." I'd sent a detailed email to Mrs. Peterson, Lily's school counselor, documenting our boundary-setting journey and the family's reaction. "I'm concerned they may attempt to undermine my parental authority by suggesting instability," I'd written. "We are simply taking a Christmas vacation to Chicago." And now, as the Minnesota countryside rolled past our window, I pulled out my phone just long enough to post a brief factual statement on social media. "Lily and I are enjoying a special Christmas trip this year." I attached a photo of Lily smiling with the Chicago skyline visible from our train window. Happiness is the best defense. I switched my phone to Do Not Disturb, allowing calls only from work and the handful of people who'd shown themselves to be true friends. Then I tucked it away, returning fully to this moment of quiet triumph. The train rocked gently as we sped toward Chicago. Lily had fallen asleep, her head resting against my shoulder. Her fingers still clutched the paper bell ornament, unwilling to let go of this small kindness even in sleep. Hours later, we stepped into the gleaming lobby of the Waldorf Astoria, Chicago. Gold lights shimmered across marble surfaces, creating an atmosphere of magic that made Lily gasp. The Christmas tree soared toward the ceiling, adorned with ornaments that caught and reflected the light. "Welcome to the Waldorf Astoria," the receptionist said, her smile genuine as she handed me our room keys. "Will you be dining with us for our Christmas Eve dinner tomorrow?" "Yes," I answered, the words still feeling foreign and luxurious on my tongue. "We have reservations." Lily spotted something across the lobby and flapped her hands in excitement, a physical expression of joy she couldn't contain. I braced myself for the familiar looks, the raised eyebrows, the subtle shifting away that I'd learned to anticipate in public spaces, but they didn't come. The staff continued their work, a bellhop smiled in Lily's direction, and no one stared or judged. They simply accepted her enthusiasm as natural, as something requiring no correction or apology. A realization washed over me with such force that I had to steady myself against the marble counter. This is how it should always be. Lily looked up at me, her eyes bright with the same understanding. "They don't mind me being me," she whispered. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. "We deserve this treatment, always. We are not the problem. We never were." That evening, after Lily had fallen asleep in our king-sized bed, I sat by the window overlooking the twinkling city and wrote in my journal, "We are not the problem. We never were." The words looked different written down, more permanent, more true. My phone buzzed with a notification that bypassed the Do Not Disturb setting. It was a text from Dr. Patel. "Ellen called the hospital. I told her you're exactly where you should be." I smiled, picturing Ellen's frustration at finding her usual tactics failing. By now, she'd likely escalated to calling the Chicago police for a wellness check, desperate to regain control. Let them come. When they arrive, they'll find a happy, well-cared-for child and a mother who has finally found her voice. They'll see what Ellen has refused to see, that love doesn't demand servitude, that family isn't measured in meals cooked, but in respect given. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. For the first time in years, I felt the holiday's promise of peace. Not because I'd silenced myself to keep others comfortable, but because I'd finally spoken the truth loud enough for myself to hear it. As I closed my journal, my phone buzzed again. A text from Hannah, "Mom's losing it." She accidentally sent a message to the wrong group chat saying, "We can't tell the Bradleys she refused. Just say she's working Christmas." Several family friends were included. "Everyone knows now." I set the phone down without responding. The truth was emerging without my effort. The carefully constructed family image was crumbling under the weight of its own deception. Outside our window, snow began to fall, gentle flakes descending on a city that had unexpectedly become our sanctuary. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. But tonight, in this moment, we are exactly where we should be. Christmas morning found us in the golden glow of the Waldorf Astoria's grand dining room. Lily spread strawberry jam on her third piece of toast, her eyes wide at the crystal chandeliers above us. She was wearing the sparkly dress we'd bought specially for this occasion, her hair neatly brushed. No rushing this morning. No tense family breakfast with Mom's disapproving glances. My phone vibrated on the table. Ellen's name flashed on the screen. The third call in 20 minutes. I silenced it and turned it face down, refusing to let her intrude on our peace. But a voicemail notification appeared seconds later, and something told me I should listen. Ashley. My mother's voice sounded strained, theatrical. I'm in the hospital. My heart. The doctors aren't sure what's happening. Please come home. Lily needs her grandmother. I need my daughter. I stared at the phone, that familiar twist of panic and guilt rising in my chest. But something felt wrong. 3 years of nursing at Hennepin County Medical Center had taught me the rhythm of real emergencies. More pancakes, Mom? Lily asked, oblivious to the manipulation attempting to breach our sanctuary. In a minute, sweetheart. I stepped away from our table and called Sandra, my friend in hospital administration back in Minneapolis. Ellen Miller? No, we don't have any admission under that name today, Sandra confirmed after checking. Nothing at Abbott or Methodist either. Are you okay, Ash? The relief that flooded me was immediately followed by a cold anger. While I was watching Lily delight on Christmas morning, my mother was fabricating medical emergencies to regain control. Back at the table, my phone lit up with a text from Hannah. Just call Mom. She's falling apart. You've made your point. Then Ron, haven't you punished us enough? It's Christmas, for God's sake. Cousin Jill, Ellen is devastated. What kind of daughter abandons her family at Christmas? Uncle Pete, your mother raised you better than this. The coordinated guilt offensive would have worked perfectly a week ago. I would have been packing our bags, apologizing for ruining Christmas, promising to make it up to them. I forwarded the screenshots to Dr. Brennan, my therapist. Her response came quickly. Textbook manipulation. Stay strong. This is why we prepared. AT. The messages continued through brunch. Ellen's escalation was impressive in its desperation. I'm contacting Lily's school tomorrow. They should know you're mentally unstable. Hannah followed with, Mom's talking about getting a lawyer. Don't make this worse. Ron's contribution cut deep. Your job could be at risk if we have to involve authorities. The final message arrived at 12:17 p.m. Call by 3 p.m. or consider yourself disowned. This is your last chance, Ashley. I set my phone down, my hands trembling slightly. Ellen had enlisted her charity board friends now. Their messages of concern flooded my inbox. The pressure felt almost physical, like the air itself was constricting around me. Mom? Lily's voice broke through my thoughts. She was standing beside me, concern etching her small features. Your phone keeps making noise. Are we in trouble? What's wrong? She asked, her voice small. Grandma left a message saying she's sick, but she's not really in the hospital. Is she lying? Lily's directness cut to the heart of it. Yes, sweetheart. I guided her to a quiet corner of the dining room, away from other guests. Sometimes people say things that aren't true to make us do what they want. Lily considered this, her brow furrowed in concentration. Then her face brightened with recognition. Like when Tommy at school says he won't be my friend if I talk about trains? The parallel struck me with such clarity that I almost laughed. Exactly like that, sweetheart. That's not very nice, Lily said firmly. No, it's not, I touched her cheek gently, and we don't have to do what people want just because they try to make us feel bad. We returned to our suite after brunch. While Lily arranged her new colored pencils by the window overlooking Michigan Avenue, I opened my laptop and created a private blog. I titled it, Our Little Escapes, and wrote our first post, If they don't save you a chair, build your own table. I added a photo of Lily and me at brunch, our faces relaxed and genuinely happy. Possibly the first authentic Christmas photo we'd had in years. The clock on my phone showed 2:37 p.m. Ellen's ultimatum loomed, but I felt strangely calm. I silenced my phone and joined Lily at the window, watching holiday shoppers bustling on the street below. 3 o'clock came and went without acknowledgement. A weight lifted from my shoulders as I realized I'd been holding my breath for years. What my family didn't know was how methodically I'd prepared for this moment. Hospital administration had been briefed on potential interference from Ellen. Lily's school counselor had documentation about our healthy boundary setting. Dr. Brennan's records established my mental stability. Our finances, though tight, were independent and secure. The evidence folder sat untouched in my cloud storage. Its power lay in having it, not using it. Later that evening, I composed a single email to my family. My tone was professional, calm, without accusation. I am open to a relationship under these conditions: respect for Lily, no demands for unpaid labor, and acknowledgement of past behavior. Professional family therapy would be required before any meaningful reconciliation. I attached selected screenshots of manipulative texts spanning years and a simple spreadsheet showing the one-way financial relationship: $11,400 given to family in the past year alone. The facts spoke for themselves. I ended with, "I am not angry. I am awake." The following day, I learned from Hannah's fiancé, Brad, that his father, a child psychologist, facilitated a difficult conversation with my family. He provided a professional perspective on Ellen's behavior patterns. Hannah began questioning her lifelong role as the golden child. Ron spoke independently of Ellen, a first in their marriage. Brad himself was reconsidering his relationship with Hannah, seeing familiar warning signs. Ellen's authority in the family had diminished permanently. The power dynamics that kept me trapped for years had shattered. For the first time, I held firm without emotional investment in the outcome. A week after Christmas, a letter arrived from Hannah, forwarded by Mrs. Johnson. I examined the Minneapolis postmark, feeling a strange detachment as I opened it. The first line was visible as I unfolded the paper: "I'm starting therapy next week." I looked at it for a long moment, surprised by genuine change, where I expected more manipulation. Then I carefully folded it again and set it aside. I'll read it when I'm ready. The power to engage on my terms felt like the greatest gift I'd ever received. For months later, the Minneapolis spring sun streamed through my kitchen window, melting the last patches of stubborn snow outside. I sipped my coffee, watching a robin tug at a worm in the newly exposed soil of my small garden patch. Nature's reset button had been pushed, and not just outside my window. "Mom, can we see the seals at the zoo in San Diego?" Lily's voice carried from her bedroom, where she was arranging her train models by historical era. "Absolutely. And the pandas, too." I opened my laptop to check our flight details for next month's trip. After Chicago at Christmas, I'd promised Lily we would make these adventures a tradition. Just the two of us, exploring the world at our own pace. I clicked over to my blog, Our Little Escapes. 3,000 followers now. Not massive by influencer standards, but substantial for what it was: a community of people reclaiming their lives from toxic family dynamics. The comments section of her latest post brimmed with stories similar to mine, each one a mirror, reflecting different angles of the same painful truth. I set my first boundary last week. My hands shook, but I did it. After reading your Chicago story, I booked my own solo trip for Easter. Your words gave me permission to stop answering my mother's 3 a.m. calls. My phone buzzed with a text notification. Hannah. My heart no longer raced with anxiety when her sister's name appeared. 4 months of therapy had changed that reaction. Found a vintage Union Pacific dining car model at an estate sale. Thought Lily might like to add it to her collection. Coffee next Tuesday. I smiled. Our relationship existed in a delicate state of rebuilding. Weekly therapy for Hannah, monthly joint sessions for us both. No contact with Ellen still. That healing required more distance. Ron occasionally met us for coffee, baby steps, as my therapist called them. Last week, he'd asked Lily about her favorite train engines, and his interest had seemed genuine. Same characters, completely different dynamics. Dr. Reynolds needs coverage for the pediatric wing this weekend. My colleague's voice carried an apologetic tone over the phone. I know it's your weekend off, but she specifically asked for you, said you're the only one who can handle the staffing coordination and the new charting system. I recognized the old pattern, the unspoken expectation that I would sacrifice my plans, my needs, my boundaries because someone else couldn't handle their responsibilities. The familiar weight of obligation pressed on my chest. I paused, taking a deep breath. I can cover Saturday morning until 2, but I promised Lily we'd visit the Science Museum exhibit that closes Sunday. I'll need someone else to take the evening and Sunday shifts. But Dr. Reynolds specifically. I understand, and I'm happy to help within those parameters. The staff scheduling template I created should make it easier for whoever covers the rest. After the call ended, I waited for the familiar wave of guilt to crash over me. It never came. Instead, I felt a quiet certainty in my choice. In my journal later that evening, I wrote, I am not responsible for others' happiness. Today marks 1 year since I first understood that. The weekend arrived with sunshine and unexpected joy. I'd invited a small gathering to my apartment, my chosen family. Dr. Patel and his wife brought homemade samosas. Mrs. Johnson from next door carried in a potted orchid. 3 friends from my support group arrived with sparkling cider. Lily proudly showed her train collection to attentive guests who asked questions about steam engines and track gauges. No one hurried her explanations or exchanged meaningful glances over her head. Dr. Patel raised his glass as they gathered around my table, a vintage farmhouse piece I'd found at a flea market and refinished myself. To Ashley, who showed us all what courage looks like. Laughter and genuine conversation filled the rooms. No tension, no walking on eggshells, just joy. Home had finally become a sanctuary,